all right. I gave you so much feedback on the. Yeah, I didn't have a chance to watch the.
All right, 6:30. Go ahead and call this OSAC meeting to order on January 11th, 2017. Go ahead and introduce everyone who's here today. Ken Lish, OSAC Chair. Just going to go down the line this way.
Sean Samuelson, member.
Andy Quach, member.
Joel White, member.
Matt Morris, member.
Ryan Welch, member.
Allison James, staff liaison.
Mark Laces, board liaison.
Yep, and welcome Mark to the committee. He's our new trustee liaison. So
Thank you.
very excited to have you on board with us. Public comment. Yeah, please come on up, introduce yourself, and have 5 minutes or so.
And if you could also state your name and address.
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Susan Bauer, and I live at 1770 Morrison Court, which is in Saddlebrook. And I'm really long overdue for being here. I should have been here about 18 months ago, after the Hutch and Harris Reservoir was completed, to say thank you. But at least better late than never.
We're very happy with it too.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that did happen at the opening ceremony is Ron Stewart encouraged me to get involved with the Boulder County and their monitoring program, since I live right on the reservoir. And so for the last year, I've been involved with the monitoring program, and I've been out there learning about aquatic waterfalls. I got to use the scientific name here. And I'm learning to count, and I'm learning to differentiate between female, male, breeding, non-breeding. And it's been an amazing experience, and I've signed up to do it another year. One of the things that's come about as a result of the monitoring this last year is we have affirmed that there is more variety and counts than anticipated on the reservoir. And so towards that end, with Boulder County and the open space, I'm under Michelle Durant over there. We're working to put together an open house to make it available to the public, set up monitors, scopes, and have an education outreach. And we're trying to figure out what those logistics look like. Do we start with Saddlebrook, then we open up to the town, then the county, because we got to figure out parking, scopes, monitor, all that. But anyways, that effort is underway to do that this year. So thank you again for that wise investment. It's been amazing. And in the course of me monitoring over the last year, I've gotten to meet a lot of residents from Superior who come in to take photographs of the birds and their breeding. And there's a gentleman by the name of Yanni who has a Facebook page and has some amazing photographs. But just extra information. So last year, I went to a trustee meeting because I learned inadvertently that there is a developer who's been hired to put forth some concept plans for the Zaharias property.
Yep.
Thank you, Allison. I'm from Minnesota. My mouth doesn't always pronounce things right. And I am concerned about that. I'm concerned about what it would do to the variety and the counts that we have there today. And so I thought I'd come down here because I know that years ago that property was identified by this committee as how do I want to say? It was identified as a property that would be nice to acquire. I think it's always been overpriced, and that there's been other low-lying fruit to go after, and I understand that, and I wanted to come back and say, can we revisit this, and if so, what is it going to take, and what can I do as a citizen to help promote it, encourage it, gain support, whatever. So
I think I can go ahead and give you some answers to that. So as far as the Zaharias property, that is still listed as one of our top open space acquisition targets. It's currently number 2 on our list. As you mentioned, it's an expensive piece of property, which is why we haven't done anything about moving forward with trying to purchase it. I think the best advice that we can give is make this same comment to the board. We here all would love to continue to purchase as much open space as we can. It comes down to a resource issue a lot of times. We do have a open space tax that brings in roughly $500,000 a year, and it sits around, I think, $5.5 million right now. But with all the other targets we have, it's one of those, where do we put that money to use best? But anytime that we can hear from you, that's great, and we've got this documented now, and we appreciate it. But putting this out in front of the board as well gives us a little bit more to go off of and say, you've now heard from additional residents, and if your neighbors feel the same way, we would greatly encourage you to have them come and do the same thing. We keep our eye on all the board meetings and watch all the public comments and everything, so anytime you guys can address the board, we are watching it, and we will take that into our plans and considerations as well.
Okay, great. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Next agenda topic, committee membership. We're just giving formal notification that Karen Taylor has resigned from the committee. She is looking to join the new Superior Arts Committee, Community Arts, and I don't remember the formal name. CAPS, there it is. Thank you. But she said thank you very much. She appreciated all her time on the committee, and I know we appreciated her time and effort while she was here. But that brings up, tell all your neighbors, tell everyone you can who might be interested in joining the committee. We now have an open slot, and the sooner we can get back to a full committee, the easier it is for us to make quorum on all recommendations that we give to the board. Next topic is dog waste. This was added to the agenda for a few different reasons. I've had a couple neighbors in my area approach me directly about observations that there seems to be an increased amount of dog waste on the trails that go through our neighborhood and in the open space. I personally have noticed a large amount as well. I'm not sure if it's increasing, if it's stayed the same, but it's clearly an issue. And then just watching board meetings, reading stuff on the listserv, seeing comments on the various Facebook pages throughout the town. I mean, it gets brought up on a fairly regular basis. So since this does impact open space, I figured it was something that could fall under our purview and we could discuss it. A, first, do we actually do think it's a problem? And then B, is it something we're interested in talking about, maybe short-term solutions, long-term solutions, get a better understanding for what is currently out there and what we're currently doing. So maybe to start, Allison, do you just want to kind of walk us through what's up there and then we can go from there?
This is the landscape maintenance map for the way stations and trash, which are the green squares. That would be a site that, you know, can of course take dog waste and regular trash. And then there's trash only, which are the orange circles, and then waste station only, which are the blue triangles. And then we have recycle stations, which are the purple stars. So what we've been doing is when there's an area that's been identified to have a lot of dog waste, either by a resident or a town staff member, we've placed some sort of receptacle depending on the request. And also when there's a new trail or park built, we've, added stations.
When you add a station, does the trend go the other way?
I would say yes, but of course there's still, many municipalities are facing the same problem because there are areas that people take their animals and it's not specifically a town-owned area where we could put a station. So, there are different problems with people not picking up after their pets.
This was just on the news, 9 News, like 15 minutes ago.
Oh.
And they were talking about closing down parks because they can't solve it. Do we know of any other jurisdictions that have this problem but then found a solution?
Boulder threatened a DNA test.
Yeah, last year.
I remember that.
which is an interesting topic in itself. Ken, you said you're hearing from people that are local. Is it like specific areas? I haven't noticed much in my area, but it could be isolated. Maybe I don't have many neighbors with dogs.
So the areas that I've specifically heard about are right down here on that greenway that abuts these homes right here on Waldona. And I've noticed it myself. I live up in this area, so there is a large amount that kind of collects all along there. And then kind of getting to what Allison has talked about, I saw it, I think it was on the Nextdoor Rock Creek website, this area up here, which is not part of the town, that is part of the Anderson property. They have it open right now for people to use as a trail. It's not respected well. There was a Nextdoor topic trying to encourage people to do a better job of picking up after themselves.
Is it bagged or unbagged, are we talking here? Or both?
Unbagged, just
Okay.
ignored.
Do we think maybe this is a seasonal thing? That, cold and snow, people are quicker to abandon and go back home, or?
That's when I've seen upticks, but I also see it during the summer, and I think it's not as visible during the summer because the grass is a lot higher. And
So I'd like to add a little more to that because while I've been out walking or whatever, I've noticed that people sometimes also bag, but they just leave it and then it gets mowed over or stomped on or whatever. So the maintenance people don't even pick the stuff up. And, if they're not picking stuff up, why would anyone else, I guess is the question.
mm-hmm.
Just as a little bit of further information, like I said, this map is from our landscape maintenance contract. We do pay our landscape maintenance to pick up the bags from the receptacles, which, is a considerable amount of our contract is picking up trash from all of these various locations. 3 times a week.
So it looks like, though, in the particular 2 areas that you talked about, that there might be opportunity to increase a receptacle there. Those look thinner, unless I'm seeing the colors wrong, right?
Well, in the upper area, there's 3, and 2 on one side and 1 on the further side. In the lower area, I don't really see any there, but just keep in mind that there's installation costs, the bag costs, and then increasing the maintenance contract for pickup.
And that was
Anytime
also,
you add one.
And that was also one of my concerns. I think I've heard batted around that roughly the entire cost for our program per year gets to be around $10,000. Do you have any idea? Is that a correct number?
I can look that up for you.
Okay. I
Since
think
it is a contract that is bid, all of the different services are broken down, so we can look at that further.
I mean, just my general observations from comparing Superior to some of the other municipalities. I do a lot of hiking throughout the Boulder area and some of our other surrounding areas, and the fact that we even have the waste stations all over town is a step above what I generally see everywhere else. We do have a fair amount of trash cans as well. I think we have the infrastructure set up better than the majority of other places that I've seen. I think it comes down to maybe more education and trying to get people to actually pick up after their dogs better. I don't know, again, how to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's two things that, one that this falls under. It's not just dog waste. It's people being respectful of the amenities and open space and things that we have in town, and that can go across the board. And I don't know, I know Louisville has hired, and certainly I'm not looking to spend the town's budget, but I also think that there's a point where it becomes code enforcement, and it's not something that we're going to ask our sheriffs to do. So is it something that the board can look at as hiring a ranger? Or I was thinking on the way over here, in the summer we have a nice, through the Parks and Rec, we have, teenagers get hired for the pool. Is there an opportunity also for teenagers to be hired in a manner of doing some type of code enforcement around this, or rangering around some of these areas? But, all of that would have to be fleshed out. But it really becomes a respect issue,
And I know that from working with Boulder, Open Space, county and city, that they tell the mountain bike patrol, don't address anybody with a dog issue because it becomes very emotional quickly. They tell you, you can tell them, hey, it's not allowed to have your dog off leash, or you should pick this up, but don't pursue any further than that, because people get very defensive quickly around pets.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have any kind of signage, just as reminders to people in some of the problem areas?
So I think, again, Superior does this fairly well at the majority, if not all, of the bag stations. The actual municipal codes are on the stations themselves, and even I think some catchy slogan like "be a do-gooder," picking up your dog, do that sort of thing. So it is out there. I mean, my thought is that if we want to try to build more of just kind of a public recognition of the problem and trying to address it, maybe what we could do is set up some type of volunteer event where we say, hey, on X day, we're going to make this Superior Dog Do Cleanup Day. If anybody wants to volunteer for it, please let us know. Maybe we can provide gloves and bags for people to go out and do it.
You know what? I think we should, if we're going to do that, we should make it more widespread. We just had this. We've had how many windstorms recently, and we're garbage
That's true.
and recycling's all over the place. It needs to be a little more wide. Maybe it's just trash pickup day
Which is true. I think
once a month.
my only
2
concern
months.
about that is we might lose the message of the dog do itself if the dog waste is an issue. That, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. Cleaning up everything is a
Put
big
at the top
is
of
a
the
big
list
deal.
then, but I mean, no one came around our neighborhood and cleaned up any of the garbage that was around, and that's just as bad as dog poop, if not worse. So if we want to put it at the top, I'd be fine with that, but I think it should be a wider spread message, because that affects everybody more than just the people that have dogs.
So one initial thought I have about that, though, I don't know if that sends the wrong message, that once a month, everyone's going to go pick up dog poop. So you really don't have to be responsible.
Well, and so my thought with it is when we, if we were to do something like this, we could do outreach like, hey, we know this is an issue. This is an issue we'd like to approach. That really this is a individual dog guardian's responsibility. That it's a respect thing, but we'd like to be proactive about it, and maybe we'll take one day to help clean it up, and then after that, maybe that sends a message that might help. But it shows that we're not just here lecturing, that we're actually taking a step forward to try to fix the problem also. I mean, it's a one-time short-term thing, but it might send a longer-term message.
Do we know
Maybe.
if there's anywhere that has like good literature or posters or anything that we could potentially set up at the upcoming like Arbor Day? The other things that, like, this is, leaving your dog's waste around does X.
Why it's bad.
Why it's bad,
Yeah.
why it's not, like,
I know that's out-
somebody's got to have some type of educational packet that you could spring off of and.
It
you know,
exists. I've seen it because
Yeah.
I've read about how the nitrates in the dog food.
But if we could just
Yeah.
add it to, I mean, I know like Ashley, when we go on the, when I've been on the hikes with her, she brings it up and very particularly brings it up and talks about the difference between like a coyote and, you know, a dog and the difference of how it breaks down and how it helps the soil when it's a coyote and when it's, you know, dogs eating dog food, how it hangs around for a long time and damages, you know, it's not just I stepped in it, it damages the plant life, it does all these other things, but if we could maybe have something that goes to Arbor Day, 4th of July, Chili, you know, once we get it once, it can just be kind of trekked around.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty eye-opening in the news story that was on 9 News. They said it was 100 times the allowable limits for E. coli in the local streams was because of the
Wow.
dog waste. And so saying why it's a problem is
Yeah.
probably more important than just asking people to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost wonder if, you know, link to those stories and use the, you know, the popular Facebook groups and Nextdoor apps and things like that to, I mean, I don't think there's any way that we're gonna be able to enforce this. We're not gonna be able to have somebody standing in this open space and watching people with their
No.
dogs. So it's gonna have to be owned by the people who have dogs. And I think if they start to understand the repercussions of doing it, maybe, you know, it diminishes. Hopefully it does.
I think that's a good idea. One other thing that the ProStack chair, Peter Bottomley, mentioned to me, because this is something that's also on their radar, is one idea that he's kind of seen around is if you do go to some of the Boulder County and City of Boulder trails, they do have bag stations. There's two different types of bag stations. One bag station is kind of just a big PVC pipe with recycled newspaper bags in them.
We have a lot of those here.
Yeah, on the Boulder County side, right?
No, I mean in Superior.
Just the big PVC ones?
Well, no,
The-
like the.
Yeah, yeah.
the
So,
bowl bags.
so where Peter was going with this is it might be possible to supplement our existing system with adding some of these PVC ones. And his thought was this might even be something that RCAC would be interested in tackling because we're now adding a recycling piece to it. So we're supplementing the system, getting recycling in there. And then the other thing that this would probably also fall into an RCAC type topic, but the other bag system that Boulder County has is compostable dog waste bags. And then they have compost set up. I'm sure that's much more costly, but
And we do have that at the dog park.
That is at the
That
dog park.
RCAC has set up, and the biodegradable bags and the pickup for that service. Just keep in mind that that's very expensive
yeah.
compared to the waste station.
Yeah, and at the Louisville Dog Park, they have the PVC pipe, and I kind of feel like it's like public fill. Like people come and
yeah.
shove those sacks in there all the time and then take one when they need them, which,
Yeah.
you know, good purpose for plastic grocery bags.
So I guess my thought right now is, I mean, it's something that's on ProStack's agenda, so I don't think it's something that we'd want to jump on without, again, consulting with them. This is something we can do together. I like the ideas of doing kind of a public education campaign to say these are the negative ramifications of doing it, and maybe start there. Is there any, I mean, do we have appetite to try to push for anything else, or do something beyond just a public education campaign? And I mean, use that and go from there.
I mean, I think it has to be self-policed.
It of course, there's no way for it to be anything but self-policed. Okay. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll let Peter know how our conversation went tonight. See if ProStack has any other ideas for what they think might be a good idea, better idea, any actions they want to take, and we'll go from there.
is it possible, Allison, for you to check with your contacts about, like I said, an education piece or like poster board or anything like that?
I could talk to Ashley. I'm sure that she may have some information, to share with us.
Yeah. Because that just might be, then we would have it for all the upcoming events. And ProStack could borrow it as well. Any
Yeah.
committee could borrow it for any events that they were doing.
Okay. We'll work with ProStack and then kind of bring it back to the committee afterwards to figure out exactly what we want to do and how we want to do it. Not on the agenda tonight, but something that that kind of came in at the last minute, is the Tract 8? H. Tract H going through the downtown Superior. This Tract H was formerly known as the buffer area. So Allison's got a presentation for us on it.
So, as we know, there's been a lot of conversation regarding Tract H, and this presentation is going to begin with some drone footage, just to kind of give everybody the lay of the land for this area. And the town needs to gather initial feedback on landscape. The two concepts are just conversation starters on the trail and vegetation, and I'll kind of talk about this as we go along. So this is Tract H. It's 12.13 acres of open space. You can see some disturbed area where it was graded and then put back. And you could see the vegetation, the existing vegetation that was undisturbed along the back side and the front side with the slope, where vegetation has just been, disturbed. So this is the frontage or the rear of the houses that are existing. The Frico ditch easement is from the fence to the beginning of this Tract H line is about 50 feet. And then the area from there to the end of the slope is 225 feet wide.
So, Allison, is the current trail that's kind of there right now part of the Frico ditch property then? Or is that
Yes.
part of, okay.
I think so. Mhm. You could, once we stop flying around, we'll be able to see a little bit. It'll stop. I have also a PowerPoint that comes behind this. So this is just to kind of help you see this 8 to 10 foot slope. And the trail would be above that slope. So now you can kind of see, how it looks from different vantage points. I thought would be really helpful to the group. There's a lot of flying around. So all drainage that's in the area, which you'll see from some of our, the two concepts, has to either stay or be piped underground. And the town is hoping to incorporate committee and community inputs for the town board during their next meeting. And hopefully that input will be put into the presentation for the town board. So we're not sure what this office park area is going to look like, but just so you know where it is in relation to Tract H, to kind of help you with the visual.
Does Tract 8, that might answer my question.
Okay, so this is one of the concepts, and I'll go through it in the PowerPoint much slower, but it kind of gives you some views of what these two concepts, very rudimentary concepts, look like from different views. And one of them is a little bit more dense, the first one, than the other one, and this one is a little bit more sparse. according to denser clumping of vegetation. So let's pull this guy up. So I'm going to kind of go through the same thing again, just a little bit slower for any questions. So this would be the tract. Kind of a little bit different views so you can get a sense of that slope, how it looks going northeast, The trail would be above that line, so above the slope. Kind of shows you the office park again in relation to what we've been looking at. So this is just this conversation starter concept, option one. It shows a little bit denser clumping, and what we did is we overlaid it on top of a more satellite image so that you could see how the housing is situated. You could see the Frico ditch, which is that this area here between the fence line and the end of the tract.
And so is the gray dotted line here proposing a trail coming up and connecting?
Let me go back. So just so you could see it a little better on this
Okay.
iteration.
Oh, yep, there it is.
Those are potential trail connections and just some ideas that are kind of thrown out there for input on.
I think that's right where the gated, or the.
Yeah.
It's in between those
the two different
neighborhoods.
subdivisions.
Yeah, the Waterford and-
There's different fence on either
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. There's a tiny little place you can slip through there right now that I've seen tracks.
And you can also see, for example, these right here are the drainage culverts, and which will need to remain.
And the Discovery Park is the one going out to the left there, right?
Yeah, right.
Right there.
So I guess not knowing what's going to happen over there. So right now, assuming that we would start working on Tract H first, does that mean that it would just kind of come all the way out here and dead end until something happened at Discovery?
I could check back on that, but I would assume so.
Okay.
And to the north, is that residential in the new
Yes.
development?
That's all supposed to be houses, I believe. And then I guess another question I have is going back to that other map that we're just looking at down over here on the east side, that lets out to the Anderson property. I assume we're so early that there hasn't been any conversation with them yet about adding some type of trail connection out that way, but is that something that we could bring up with them? I think they're putting a plan in front of the Planning Commission soon, if I remember last. So that might be something we want to follow up with them on, just to make sure that they're aware that this is something we're hoping to do and see if they can work it into their plans.
And I could take these notes of comments and then read them back to the group, and then everybody can decide, what comments we would like to share out of this discussion in the notes.
So all those trees, we're going to have to, irrigate and do all of that. Like all of this would be then sort of irrigated open space.
So I have a couple slides towards the end after we
Oh.
go through these
Yeah.
couple of concepts that'll talk about the different
Okay.
irrigation types or no irrigation. So this is, like I said, a little bit denser concept plan. You could see that there's some tall shrubbery here, and these plantings include like a medium shrubbery. This plan is a little bit sparser, and these are supposed to be evergreen. This is the larger evergreen trees, and then your deciduous are the
this piece in here. And so you can see how this doesn't have the medium shrubbery in between, you know, with these deciduous tree clumps and between that and the homes. This is just another slide to show the slope, this 8 to 10 foot slope. So these are the different types of plant material, and you know, kind of around town you can see some of this. For example, this is the native plant material undisturbed at Tract H, what it typically looks like. This is irrigated native plant material that's been mowed. So it is native plant material, it is not sod, but once it's mowed and irrigated, it kind of takes on the appearance of sod. And then this is at Colton Road. And South Indiana and South Torrey's has irrigated native plant material unmowed. So it kind of shows you a little bit of different stratification the group can talk about for these different types of landscape plant material. And here's a couple of other pictures just to illustrate what native unirrigated would look like. This, of course, is sod, so disregard this side, but this kind of shows it against a trail, for example. Our town also, within our landscape maintenance contract that I mentioned earlier, typically we mow 5 feet on either side of a trail. So just keep in mind that, you know, it would probably appear more like this picture here, where this is irrigated native that's been mowed alongside unmowed irrigated. And then this is just unirrigated native that's probably been hit by rain. You know, it's had more optimal weather. So, you know, keep that dry thing in mind. And also, you know, we would have drip lines for trees. We would not only have the irrigation for the native grasses, but we would also need drip lines for trees, if there were to be trees recommended. And again, here, at the bottom was the mowed native irrigated mowed, which is, appears more like sod, but it is not sod.
So there was a 2016 budget amendment a few months back that had to do with the irrigation on this tract. Is the idea that that was money set aside for decisions that will be made from the recommendations that we make and then the board ultimately decides upon? Is that so? It's not yet decided there will be irrigation, or what's the board? I mean, what's?
I thought Rita explained that, or I thought the board said it will be irrigated. It's just a matter of what plantings are put there, but it's. I don't think there's an option that it won't be irrigated.
Okay, then that was my understanding too.
Unless you have something different, Allison, if you were told something different.
Well, the committee can make a recommendation on whatever the group would like to make a recommendation on.
Okay.
But, you know, I just wanted to give everybody as clear of an example of the different types of things that are available.
So given the climate we're in, if we have the opportunity to comment, it sure seems, well, from a budget perspective and the fact that we live in a high desert, 12 acres of irrigation seems irresponsible to me.
Mark, you've read the annexation agreement. I thought the irrigation was part of that when it was handed over, that was part of what, you know, what it was agreed upon then, that it would be irrigated space, and it's just always been. But I agree with, you know, I think that to be responsible with the water would be the best, but I think there is an expectation that it will be irrigated.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's an irrigation provision in the annexation agreement, but my understanding of what the board has said is that anything that gets planted there, because we're in such an arid climate, we need to irrigate it, otherwise it's going to die. So if we're going to be putting in plants, if we're going to be putting in trees, we need to, at a minimum, irrigate it while it's getting established, and then you've got the infrastructure in there, so you're probably going to have to maintain the irrigation. So I think it probably makes sense to assume that at a minimum, the plantings will need irrigation. That now, not necessarily a sodded lawn or something like that, but the trees.
And the native plantings will certainly help with the amount that needs to be, the amount that needs to be watered. But yeah, it is a consideration.
There's an access road there right now. Is that part of the land, or would this be next to that access road, or whatever that
Yeah,
is?
so
That's right
that,
now.
yeah, I think that's the Frico. Yeah.
The like Jeep road that goes through there.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll stay. Okay. And then there's natural vegetation to the south of that, and then on the hillside there'll be natural vegetation back up to those homes. So it
Mhm.
seems like a mowed area, and the stretch of taller, not mowed grass might look. I don't know if that would be funny looking or not. It would just be the stretch of green, almost like an island, if you will.
I think, I mean, my thought is, if you look at this, it kind of lends itself pretty strongly to a wildlife corridor. And it more or less, I mean, we're still waiting to see exactly what Anderson will look like, but it can add as a connection from the reservoir area as a corridor all the way out to the west. And if we're wanting to encourage as much wildlife habitat as possible, I think we'd be most interested in the unmowed natural grass, so it's as tall as possible and dens can be created. There's better areas for animals to hide. And then I would also think that the more dense versus the sparse tree landscaping and whatnot would provide more nesting areas for the numerous birds that we have. I mean, I go back there fairly often, and I see some type of bird of prey almost every time I'm there. I think that's something we'd probably be interested in continuing to support.
Have the residents commented on the options, or will they have an opportunity?
They will.
That was my thought as well. They've been very vocal about the buffer zone.
Mhm.
So I would expect that you get quite a bit of feedback from that group of residents that back up to that, because they've, got historically what it has looked like, and now it's changing quite a bit, and ignoring the fact that it was graded and then put back, and I'm sure that they're going to have comments on that.
So I agree with Ken. I think we should leave it as a natural, highly, as dense as we can with vegetation, unmowed, whatever, as a wildlife corridor, as an open space committee member trying to preserve natural wildlife or natural open space. We should keep it as natural as possible. Plus, I think the people that live back there would like as much barrier as possible from highly, the very dense town center and what it is going to be. Compared to what they were used to. So I think they would also agree to keep it as natural as possible for visual, as well as for animals, as well as for people trying to come up the slope toward their houses. So.
Do we know that the homes on the other side, are they what type of fencing they're gonna put in? Do we have any concept? Have we seen fencing of what the developer's putting in on those homes? Like, is it going to be, like my fence, I back up, I have the 2 railing, right? But other people have the 6-foot, slatted fence,
Yeah.
privacy barrier. So I'm just curious if anybody knows what their fencing options are looking like
I
down
don't think
there?
the developer has thrown that out there yet.
Okay.
At least not in the ones I've watched, presentations I've seen.
I didn't see either.
Yeah. So Casals, you want to read kind of back your summary, or anyone else?
I've got potential Anderson property trail discussion, follow-up. I've got discovery, seems like it may be a dead end until that section is developed. Got a question for fencing on homes that back onto the space. And then I have comments, most interested in unmowed natural grass open space, more areas for dens and areas for animals to hide. Let me add that.
I think the other comment is having it be, just be dense, which I think is good, because then you would have the two ends of, you'd have the corridor, right, where we're hoping to have nice density around the creek, and then bookcase it on the other side of it, where you will have this dense downtown Superior comparatively to the other
And then
areas in town.
I'm sorry. And then I have tree areas for nesting for birds, and residents will have the opportunity to discuss tract age.
I'll make sure we don't lose.
I'll make sure we don't lose Matt's comment either. Just make sure that we at least bring up that if we do move forward with the irrigation, we do it in as responsible a manner as possible. I mean, I don't know if.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Rock Creek way.
And if it is just for establishing the trees or the shrubs, then I think our recommendation would be that's it, right?
That's it.
Yeah, not rolling
Minimal,
greens back
minimal,
there.
right.
Yeah.
Minimal-
Well-
Sod
minimal.
in there.
And in establishing them, it would still exist. I mean, it would, if we establish the trees, they would still need to be continuously watered. It wouldn't just be a period of time and then they wouldn't be watered. They wouldn't survive.
I think it's more that we're not looking for green grass to be, power sprayers on, more that, okay, here's your trees sections.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions we'd like to kind of bake into this?
Is this on the next board meeting? So 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
A week and a half?
So we need to put this into a recommendation somehow. We've all kind of heard it. We could probably go ahead and vote on those comments and questions to be included in a recommendation to the board. And then afterwards, we can just clean up the language a little bit through email. Is that okay?
I think that we're supposed to do it all now specifically in the meetings. I can also hand my laptop over to anybody that wants to wordsmith now. But it probably would be best to document it in our meeting and wordsmith it, have it recommended if possible.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do that then, so we can get that.
So these are the comments right at the bottom there.
Okay. So, OSAC recommends
The denser option, is that option 1? I mean, I think that people were going more towards option 1, right?
I can go back to them for you.
But that option will also require heavier irrigation too, if there was a concern on the irrigation.
we could say something like
Or in
OSAC.
between?
So you can kind of see, I think you could see it pretty well here, what it would look like.
We could say something along the lines of OSAC recommends the more dense option with the caveat that there should be a better understanding about the amount of water use between the two options, and that should be taken into account. So which one is the denser option? Is
Would
that
be the first concept, concept
Okay.
one.
Those- concept number 1.
Yeah, it has that medium height shrubbery.
Do these concepts have a price tag with them yet, or are they just?
No, they're just really discussion concepts that really are just a starting point for this discussion, for the groups to look at and start having a conversation.
OSAC recommends pursuing concept number 1 with the caveat that a better understanding be developed regarding the amount of water use between the two concepts. And we just want to leave it at that. Should I add something at the end of that?
Do you want to add just the sort of, the reason why is for the wildlife corridor or, something?
Yeah, this is just the first bullet. Maybe we should do all the bullets and then we can go from there. OSAC recommends working with the Anderson property developers to pursue trail connections. Okay. And then same thing.
Trail connections to
With-
where? Are we talking to the reservoir or talking to neighborhoods or what are we talking, town center, which way?
Always.
I think
in-
all 4 ways
Yeah.
to Discovery, to Anderson, to between Waterford, and I don't know what that.
Yeah, I think-
neighborhood to the south of that is.
The last concept plan I saw for Anderson showed some trails going, or at least some paths going through. I think just talking with them to let them know that we have a trail connection on this site and ensuring that they have a connection plan on their property would be best. And then once we actually see what they're going to propose, then we can provide more input to them about whether we'd like other trail connections on their property, but at least making sure that they have a connection for tract H. So then also working with the Discovery Office Park.
Yeah, I mean, but we want to make sure it connects from the reservoir. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like we need to point that out specifically because
Okay.
that's the whole point of having the wildlife corridor, right? To get from the reservoir out to the mountains, basically.
So to pursue trail connections, especially to the Hodgson Harris Reservoir.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would you like me to turn a light on? How are you doing?
Oh, perfect. So the next one, working with the Discovery Office Park developers to pursue trail connections is
To the west.
to the west.
To the west open space.
Let's see. Our next bullet was the question on fencing for homes that back to the open space. So, following.
I don't,
Is that going to change our decision?
Yeah.
no, I'm just, it's more just a question, I think, to just keep in people's mind when those development plans come forward, like, is it?
So maybe that's something we have in our notes, but we don't add to the
Yeah, I don't know
recommendation.
that it needs to be in the recommendations. It was just a thought that, what's going to be there on that side when it's done.
Okay. In that case, I'll just kind of push that lower. Our next bullet was interested in the unmowed natural grass open space. So pursuing an option of unmowed natural grass. Do we want to say to encourage a wildlife corridor? Okay. So pursuing. Unmowed natural grass open space to encourage wildlife corridor. All right. Our next bullet was trees for nesting birds. I think that kind of just fits in with what we just said. Next bullet was residents will have the opportunity to discuss tract age.
That's just the notes.
Just a note. We don't need to add that to our recommendation. And then irrigation. Although we kind of
We took care
covered
of that
that.
with number one.
Okay, so let me read back what we have in our recommendation then. OSAC recommends pursuing concept number one with the caveat that a better understanding be developed regarding the amount of water use between the two concepts. OSAC recommends working with the Anderson property developers to pursue trail connections, especially to the Hodgson Harris Reservoir area. OSAC recommends working with the Discovery Office Park developers to pursue trail connections to the west. And OSAC recommends pursuing unmowed natural grass in the open space to encourage an active wildlife corridor.
Would the group want to add something about the more densely planted concept one? Because I think that was the main difference between the two concepts. And since they are basically a real starting point, that if it's kind of differentiated out that way.
So do we want to say?
Pursuing the more densely, what was it, the more densely?
Planted
Yeah. More densely planted vegetation, as that would encourage more. Or
So pursuing the more densely planted vegetation in concept one with the caveat that a better understanding be developed regarding the amount of water use between the two concepts? Okay.
Utilizing native low water use
planting.
trees and plants or something.
Okay. Was there anything else we wanted to add to those 4 bullets? Okay. I just read it. Does anyone need me to read it again before we? Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to?
Make a motion to recommend what you just read to the board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Unanimous. Beautiful. I made the bullets up there, but didn't delete anything down there. All right. Next agenda topic, the citizen science projects. This is a follow-on discussion from last month about the Birdwatcher program. We had discussed the possibility of wanting to reach out to the elementary schools in the area, probably the 4th or the 5th grades, to see if they were interested in participating in this science project. Just a quick recap, it's a bird count that would be from February 17th to the 20th, and there's a website that provides a lot of different resources and instructions on how to do this. Another thing that I thought about, I know we have some points of contact that we could probably reach out to in Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. They might be interested in doing this as well. Is the group still in favor of this, and can we assign people to reach out to the specific groups to gauge interest and see if we can get them on board with it? Or any other ideas?
I'm still in favor of it. I like the idea. I actually talked about it New Year's Eve with a neighbor across the street who teaches Elementary. The one thing that has kind of stalled me from pursuing any further is, you know, what age do we target? Should we target a specific grade? Should we target, you know, multiple grades so we get better participation? Do we target both elementary schools? Things like that. I mean, that as I started to kind of think about how we formulate a response to the schools to gauge interest or to, you know, get this moving, I thought we certainly need to come to them with a well thought out plan. Otherwise, it's probably going, by the time we sort through these things, it will be past our collection date.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting, fourth graders in the state of Colorado do all things Colorado. So that may be a topic you may want to pursue.
I guess the question is are we just looking to the school to hand the information to the fourth graders, or are we looking to the school to try to do a lesson plan around that? I mean, it's like a voluntary experience, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to register and do all of that. And I was looking through the site, you know, it's very specific that it's that weekend because they want, it's before the migrations or whatever, so they very specifically want it within that 3-day period. It's not, there might be other parts of the year, but this next one in particular is those weekends.
My thinking was we try to approach them as a homework type activity that they can send home. You know, to your point, there's probably going to be scheduling conflicts with some percentage of the families that wouldn't be able to do it on that given weekend. Maybe, you know, maybe we work with the teachers to say, have everybody collect it. We only pass on the pieces that are collected during, you know, the assigned times or something. You know, I don't know how strict their curriculums are. I don't know if at this point we could get something interjected for a homework assignment in, you know, 5 weeks or something like that.
And that was going to be my biggest concern as well. My wife is a teacher, and she's taught everything from second grade up to high school, and a lot of times they do have really tight curriculum that they can't really bend from. However, if this is just a one-time thing on one weekend, and if we are willing to even go in and give like a half-hour presentation about why we'd want to do this, why it's exciting, give them the idea, that way it's not encroaching too much on what's going on with the teacher, that might be a little bit more appealing to them.
So are we looking to collect the data, or are we looking to tell them to go get their own account? Because I think that's two different things. Are we looking to get data back from people and then one of us is going to get the account and put it in, or are we saying just, here's the website, here's what you do, this is why it's exciting,
I think
go out and do it? Because I'd lean more towards that, the first part of just saying, I mean, not the first part, but that second part of saying, here's the website. If your child wants to be interested in doing this, and there will be some percentage of kids who are, then they would do it, and that would be great, and then they could participate all year long, as opposed to saying that we really want 24 kids in each class to do something.
And I think that makes a lot more sense too. I mean, I think the whole idea when we first brought this up was just trying to push more people into interacting with our surrounding area, our open space, our nature, and at least us just putting it out there. I mean, not a requirement. We're not personally wanting to collect it. We're just trying to help out and encourage this. So I think your second option that you laid out makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think it's valid points.
And at least for the first time, let's aim low, and then if it goes really well, next year we can be, or next session.
Yeah. I mean, maybe what we could do, and it would probably get more, at least better buy-in from the teachers, is not even ask them to make it an assignment or something like that. Just say, hey, is there any way we could grab 30 minutes from you for a day? We could come in, say, this is something that's going on, this is why it's important, this is how you could do it, get the kids interested, give them enough material that in working with their parents they could figure out how to do it. And I mean, if we really wanted to, we could try to get them to let us know if they did it by adding some type of Twitter hashtag or something, and just ask them to post to just Superior bird watching on that day or something like that. That way we can track if there was any participation, if we were even wanted to go that far. But that would probably be the best way to at least get this in front of that many people.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a give and take between how passive we are about just suggesting it and then the participation.
Yeah.
So, I agree with what Patricia said, though, is, maybe, especially, today's the 11th, we've got just a few weeks to get this done. We really need to have our decisions made tonight so that we can then have a path forward to go communicate with schools if that's the route we decide to go. So, maybe a small few steps is better than the full sprint right now.
I think that makes sense. So I guess just to summarize, the idea right now is that we can reach out to them. We'd be prepared to give them some information about this. We could offer some time to go in and talk with them if they're interested in that, just to let them know that this program exists and encourage them to do it, and then we more or less just leave it alone at that. Does that summarize well? Is there anything we'd want to add to that?
No, other than the fact that whatever email thing we come up with can then also be sent to the scouts and also just go out onto the CAC or onto the town Facebook page that other residents can go find the information and participate.
I think that makes sense. Okay. Allison, as far as just logistics goes, I have no problem reaching out to the schools to see if there's any interest in this. Is that something I'm allowed to do on behalf of OSAC, reaching out to a third party, or does that have to be something that staff does? Can we do that?
I can touch base and make sure that that's okay tomorrow and get right back to you.
Okay.
Also, I would want some type of blurb. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer to draft some type of marketing material or anything like that I can use to, if we get permission, to put it out via the town's different venues of marketing.
I think if, well, I guess one question. Let's say the elementary schools say, no, we really don't have time for that, and we're not interested in you guys coming to us with this. Do we still want to put it out to the CAC?
I think we
Okay.
still put out to the CAC.
Okay. I mean, it's something.
And just to be clear, the schools might say no. They're very,
Oh yeah.
because they sometimes have limits of what they want to be inundated with from outside organizations, even within the town as a.
Well, I have a couple venues that we could do. We could do the CAC and eBlast. We have Facebook, and then I could put it on OSAC's web page on the town website. So I'm almost 100% sure that that is not a problem. I think it's more making sure that reaching out to the schools is okay.
Okay. I mean, we're just talking about a paragraph or so. I don't mind drafting that up, and I'll shoot it out to the group to see if they want to add anything else for the CAC. And then Allison, as soon as you just hear back, we'll talk to you tomorrow and figure out what we can do with the schools.
I mean, once the blurb has the website, I went on the website, it's very comprehensive. So
Yeah.
once you're there, you're locked into the program.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think we've got a path forward then. Next topic, the town board joint meeting and the possible agenda items. For everybody who's new to the group, we meet with the town board once a year. This is kind of just a sit down for us to be able to have a conversation one-on-one with all the trustees, talk about kind of the highlights that we would like their input on, or just to let them know that we're doing and get direct feedback from them. Allison, you said we have a date scheduled now?
Yes, it's February 27th and to meet promptly here at 5:30. And the mayor really likes to start on time. And like Ken said, this is basically an informal opportunity to spend time with the board, and also an opportunity for a catered dinner. So if you have any dietary accommodations, just let me know, and I can make sure that that's arranged for you.
You said 5:30, is that correct?
Yes.
There's a hard stop on it, right? Because it usually is before a board meeting, right? So it's 5:30 to
6:45 typically.
Yeah. Just, that's why start on time and.
Yeah, I remember last year we had a lot we wanted to talk to them about, and we were rushed to try to get everything
Yeah.
squeezed in.
And eat at the same time, too.
Andy.
Yes.
And then they have their thoughts about what they want to talk about as
Good
well.
job, Joel. Thanks.
Yeah. So we are more or less responsible for kind of setting that agenda. It's usually a fairly loose thing, so if we can figure out maybe anywhere between 3 to 6 topics that we'd like to talk with them about, that's kind of the way we've usually done it. We don't always get to maybe 6 topics, maybe it's only 3, 4, maybe 5, but if we can at least have 6 topics or so that we do want to discuss with them, so we're fully prepared, I think that'd be best. So I guess ideas. My first idea is kind of our big project that we're taking on for the year in reviewing our open space acquisition priorities. I think that's something we absolutely want to talk with them about.
I would say the Coal Creek corridor is the next, that project, not necessarily, but just that it's going forward, the things that, we've been able to get done and what we foresee for that area.
What was that, the Coal Creek corridor?
Yeah, the Coal
Okay.
Creek corridor.
I guess the other big one are the expedited trails that we're looking at right now, potentially.
Ones that are currently under design, or ones that we'd like to get expedited further,
Well, I
or?
guess that's a good point. I guess the ones under design are in the process. Right? So
Yeah.
there's not much to discuss there.
Yeah, so right now we've made recommendations to the board, and they are from last year. And those are all the ones that are under design. And then we don't have any outstanding trail recommendations besides that. So right now, we're kind of in limbo for any other solid recommendations besides what we just list on our 5-year trail plan.
And I guess, so who makes that decision? I mean, did they come to us and say, look, we want to spend some money, we want to get this moving? Or did we go to them saying, look, we got to get moving on some stuff? And is this enough that we probably maybe don't want to push that again this year?
The way that started was we didn't have a lot of prospects for acquiring anything this year, and we're trying to make sure we're still bringing value to the town with our open space budget. So we kind of took a look and said, okay, if we can add kind of a fair amount of trails that could bring value, and what we ended up deciding on was kind of that whole corridor down the Caslin, then that'd be a good use of funds. And we brought that to the board and said, this is what we would like to do, and they were amenable to that. So I think that kind of lands on us. I think this is something that we probably need to talk about as a group and find out, where do we land right now. I mean, the idea is, so my personal biggest concern is between last year when we made that decision to start putting some money towards trails and to where we are right now, there's been a much larger push for development. Zaharias is underway, Anderson's underway, Rogers Farm is underway. We're really losing opportunities to acquire anything. I don't know if it's something that we want to try to push harder to try to figure out additional ways that we could acquire more land. I mean, we have our open space fund, but for how much land costs these days, I don't know how far that would really go.
I think it's a good thing maybe to just have that as an agenda item to sort of get their feeling on the, obviously everyone wants us to buy level 3.
Yeah.
That's across the board, but, do they really, we had someone come at public comment today, are they really interested in Zaharias becoming something or not? Like, these other ones that are left, how much interest is there from the board? There is, the balance that they have between open space and revenue sources and things
Yeah.
that the board is looking at from perspectives, like what is their appetite, I think, for us to acquire or pursue acquiring at this point? I think might be a good topic to sort of informally get from them what's their, especially since it's a new board.
So maybe board priority for open space acquisition or something?
Yeah, I think that might be a good, sort of get their appetite on that.
I think it's a good idea.
And then if that's 4 that we have?
3, I took off
That's-
expedited trails.
So then I
But
think the Shan Shan is the next big, that sort of area there and sort of getting that. I mean, I know we have the board to ask to get an official back, but also would be another informal to
Let 'em know
reiterate
it's-
what we're looking for that property.
Could you give me that last bullet really quick? Because I was looking at reviewing open space acquisition priorities, and then I was like,
Priority for open space acquisitions is
It's what's
what I
their
wrote down.
priority for us to
Oh,
acquire.
after that,
Yeah.
we wrote just Shan Shan Trailhead for number 4.
Can you scroll that down?
sure.
I'm just curious what we have in second order.
So I have reviewing open space acquisition priorities, Coal Creek corridor improvements.
So we kind of have it, I mean, and we can actually blend the two. So the first one was the open space acquisition plan, so that actual physical document. And
So
the
you
fact,
want plan and not priorities?
Yeah, the
Okay.
first part is the plan. I think
Okay.
we're looking at redoing this document.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Open space acquisition plan.
And maybe we want to add the priority for open space acquisition just to number 2, because I have a feeling
Yeah.
those conversations will bleed into each other.
Yep.
I agree.
And then number 3 would be the Coal Creek corridor.
Okay. Improvements?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then number 4 right now is Shan Shan Trailhead.
Perfect.
And then number 5, though, anybody else jump in if they have other, is I think we should just reiterate the sort of Trails Day and education things that we're doing throughout the year. And that, it goes quickly, like, because they will have things that they want to talk about, or, because it really is, it's, what, an hour and 15 minutes, I think.
I want to say also, last year, it was kind of the norm to be about 6, at least under 6 items, because, do you recall?
I don't remember how many we had on there. I think we really wanted to talk about 4, but we put a few extra just in case we did have extra time.
Yeah, and it was really like, okay, we're done now.
Yeah, we ran all the way up to our last second last year. I remember that.
Can we have one more OSAC meeting though before this meeting, so we could.
Yep. Yeah, we don't have to
think
decide our
about it.
agenda now.
Yeah,
This is
no,
this is
just-
something that just an initial list, and then we'll finalize it at our next
Sorry,
OSAC meeting.
What about Parks 1 and 2 and downtown Superior? Are those going to be calendar year
That's
2017?
kind of the Coal.
Well, it's they split the Coal Creek corridor out, so they will be, I think they're there, but I don't know that the board is, I mean, we can bring them up, but I think it's,
I don't know how premature it is.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
was my
Yeah.
question.
Mark, I think the last time I saw, there's still discussion with the developer about when that could possibly get started. Is that your understanding, or do you have any other information about
Right,
Parks 1 and
so
2?
I think it was in August when the FDP was originally presented that had Parks 1 and 2 combined with the Coal Creek corridor.
Mhm.
And during that board meeting, the discussion between the developer and the board kind of derailed, and they ended up pulling, so this was before I was on the board, but they pulled the FDP because the developer was not making a commitment as to when Parks 1 and 2 needed to be built. So we would basically have the FDP there, but then there was a debate as to when, if ever, there was an obligation to start actually constructing Parks 1 and 2. So rather than approving that, the board elected to pass on that, sent the Coal Creek improvements as a separate FDP, and now Parks 1 and 2 remain non-approved.
Just in limbo.
In limbo.
Yeah.
And that's an ongoing, I think, point of contention, frankly, between the board and the developer as to when that gets built, because I think the developer feels he doesn't want to spend the money on it right now until, other things get built in town center, and the
Bond
board
revenue.
wants the parks in as soon as possible, so it's coming to an agreement that both parties can live with. That's the difficulty there.
And that might be something that we could kind of wrap into the Coal Creek corridor conversation.
Yeah. It'll go there eventually.
Yeah, I mean, when both the original FDP and when the second FDP for just the Coal Creek corridor went up, I went to the board during public comment and made it very clear that OSAC is still very much in favor of getting Parks 1 and 2 built as quickly as possible. I mean, our position is known. I think just reiterating again helps, but.
Because I was on Planning Commission when that FDP was originally planned, so it went through Planning Commission, it was approved. So we saw the whole presentation on what Parks 1 and 2 were going to look like. I don't know if anybody else has seen what those plans look like.
Yeah, we
but
saw
you should
that.
go take a look at them. They're spectacular.
I think we saw it a week before you did, or 2 weeks before you guys
Yeah.
did.
No, it was very nice. It was
yeah.
just who was going to pay for it and the timing.
Exactly.
I mean,
But,
that's
I
what
think
we-
that it's one of those things that if you have community outreach and the community is demanding that these parks come in, that certainly won't hurt in terms of maybe encouraging the developer to move those things forward.
Any thoughts on something on the Rocky Mountain Greenway? I mean, that's a pretty interesting topic right now.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, and that has some momentum, it seems.
Yeah.
Seems like it's progressing regardless of municipalities' oppositions and things like that.
You might
think-
want to put that a little lower on the list. It might take a
Yeah.
time.
Start that at 6:30. I think that's a pretty good list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just one of the things that is on there that we talked with the board, I want to say it was 2 years ago, was naming trails and open space. The board was definitely in favor of it. We got busy and never started anything with it. I don't know if that's, I mean, honestly, we've got a ton on our plates. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm good with leaving it off for now.
I
or-
think we can leave it off, but I think that's something we should put on the joint meeting with ProStack, and go as sort of a recommendation with them on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot we can talk with ProStack about this year in our joint meeting. So there's 6 things I think we have right now. There's the open space acquisition plan, the priority for open space acquisition, Coal Creek corridor, the Shan Shan Trailhead, the National Trails Day and education outreach that we do, kind of just educating the board on everything that comes out of OSAC as far as that, and then the Rocky Mountain Greenway.
Yeah, and I think you can, if you want, you can flip-flop those bottom 2 depending on timing, like when you want to speak to it, like.
Yep.
I think that's good list.
So I would say at this point, I'll again get this list circulated to the group before our next meeting. Keep thinking about anything else that you might want to get elevated up to a one-on-one discussion with the board, and then we'll finalize this list at our next meeting.
So this is informal, but do we actually put together any content to help guide the conversation, or do we just throw the topic up and have at it?
Just throw the topic up and have at it.
Okay, cool. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. The idea is to have it be as informal as possible. I think they want it to be more of a conversation rather than a meeting.
In a presentation.
Exactly.
Okay.
We kind
I
of
like
skirted
that.
the edge on that last year. We had so much we want to talk about, mostly that accelerated trail construction. And I think we provided some stuff last year, and that might have been a little overkill, but.
So it sounds like Kenny think you and Patricia were able to attend last year. I was unable to attend last year.
Think,
Are
But I
you the
think,
only-
Sean, you came.
yeah, there was one other person. Were you at last year's?
Late, a
The
little
board?
late. Yeah, the
Yes.
dinner, yeah.
I think it was just the three of us who made it last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone is invited.
Yeah, everybody's invited and encouraged to attend.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just curious how many people we had from our current committee that were there last year.
3 from our current committee and 3 total. Yeah, there were a lot of conflicts last year. Okay, perfect. That leads into the updating the open space acquisition plan. Really, I kind of wanted to put that on there just to start to plant the seed in everybody's mind. Allison printed off the plan that I hate to say current plan, but it was
It's the current plan.
Yeah, it was done all the way back in 2005. I think the big difference between what is in front of us here and what we will be doing is this was the very first time this had been created. It was starting from scratch. I don't think that we need to reinvent the wheel. I think our best idea would be to kind of go through it, figure out what we can update, figure out what's even available as open space that's on here.
So does this get touched at all? I mean, I'm sure some of this property has been bought and built on,
Yeah,
and it
it
doesn't
absolutely-
get removed at that point, right?
No,
This is
because
just the
this
plan?
is the plan that
Okay.
was submitted and approved, so I think that's part of what we would do, is then in the 2017 plan, it would be, here's what, I mean, you could almost have the appendix at the back that just says, here's what was acquired since the last plan, or developed, either
Yep.
acquired or developed, and. you
And
know.
for some of our new people, some of our documents for the Open Space Advisory Committee can be found on the website. And what you can do is just go to boards and committees, Open Space Advisory Committee, and then scroll down to the bottom. And for example, this summary report can be found right there. So if you didn't want to take your paper copy, you can find it online.
Yeah.
Do you want these back? I mean, do you have a reason to have them back?
I asked Allison to make sure that they're all available for us. That way if we all wanted a hard copy and could actually sit down and read. And I still like sitting down and reading hard copy stuff. So,
no, I agree.
yeah. So I guess this is going to be an ongoing thing, but just for tonight, I think kind of getting a general idea for how we want to proceed is what I'd hope to get out of this conversation right now. My initial thought is that trying to get this document updated, completed, and finish this project, if we just tried to address it as a full group only once a month, will be difficult. My thought is that it might make sense to kind of do one of two things. Either we all agree that it's something we want to take on as a large group and we do it through email during the months, or if we wanted to, we could kind of just designate a subgroup within OSAC, maybe 3-4 people, whatever, and say, okay, you guys are the ones that can take the lead on this, and during the month they can start doing legwork, getting things done, and then the subcommittee could brief the full committee at every monthly meeting saying, this is what we've done, this is kind of where we're at now. We're looking for input from the entire committee on these general ideas, and this is what we'd like to get done during the next month. I mean, thoughts on that, better ways to go forward?
I think a subcommittee probably makes sense, because I think it's gonna be easier to find 2 or 3 or 4 people that have targeted time to work on it than trying to coordinate the email across 8 or 9 of us.
Yeah, my other concern also is that there's going to need to be some help from staff with this, reviewing some of the properties that are out there, just getting their direct knowledge, and it's also easier to coordinate getting 3 or 4 people in the same room in the middle of the month or week rather than all of us. So that would be another advantage of doing a smaller committee.
I like that idea.
Okay.
One thing I noticed when I was looking through there, and maybe it's just that update, like, what is now Superior Town Center and what we're referring to the Anderson, we're not called that in this document. So was that sold post-document to somebody else, or?
Yeah, I think it was 2005.
Yep. Yeah.
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 A lot of the information is not going to be current.
Yeah, so we'll probably need to create new maps
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, you have to map the property name. So like school site is now the park
Park.
next, over on Indiana.
The Richmond is now Superior Town property.
Richmond is town property. Town 9 is Founder's Park, like.
Yeah.
So, like, that's gonna be sort of step one, is identifying. I think that this was pretty comprehensive of what was available.
Yeah, I doubt that there's going to be new stuff available, or if there is, it'd be minimal, I would imagine.
Yeah.
That's not on this list, but we'll probably be crossing off a significant amount, I would imagine.
Yeah, and identifying, what's left.
So one thing that, it's kind of on that subject that came up earlier when we were talking about, there's certain properties that are available, certain that are looking for development. Is it frowned upon, is it impossible for the town of Superior to buy open space that is not in city of Superior limits? I mean, you see that with Boulder County from time to time, where they buy a property that is near Boulder but not in Boulder. I don't even know if it's possible. Should we be looking on the other side of 128?
I think that's a question that we can ask when
Yeah.
we talk about the priorities.
That's a great
with the
question.
board- With the board there, that's a good question to ask them, because I think that's part of the, I have no idea what the
Yeah, I mean, when
town's.
you look at Superior and it's 4 square miles, there's not much left.
Yeah.
And so if we say Zaharias is too expensive, and we say level 3 is not ever for sale, we look somewhere else, or otherwise, that's a lot of money to build trails.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, that's sort of that question with them, the appetite for acquiring, and do they consider going outside? They might come back with more of a thought that, yeah, you can go a little outside, but it would be a joint effort
Yeah,
with
at least
Boulder
Boulder or
County.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a good question for them to get theirs.
And another kind of starting point we'll have to figure out is how much do we typically pay, or is there a certain amount we're only allowed to pay for open space? I remember this was a big thing that came up recently on the 0027 Facebook page with Louisville, with the property that's on the other side of 95th, those giant homes. There was a lot of concern from the community saying, oh man, developer's going to do that, there's going to be fracking over there. I know that was a huge open space target, why can't we buy it? And the town came back and said it was kind of too expensive, and then they started trying to work with Boulder. I don't know if anything ever came of it or where that even stands right now, but I remember there was kind of a cap that was set saying, no, we can't buy anything past that. I don't know if that exists for Superior, but we'll need to understand that.
Yeah.
Is it better tonight to see who's interested in being on this committee, or should we kind of put that out late, like through email, and we can decide that on our next meeting so people can think about their schedules better and decide whether they do have time to do it?
I think, does it just fall into discussion number 10 and 9? Like, do we
And,
want to
yeah,
do the
that's kinda-
leadership first and then, and then talk about the things that we think are
Yep, that actually makes sense.
are open for people or need people.
Okay.
But I think we all agree that a subcommittee is the best route to go, as opposed to once a month looking at this.
That makes sense. So I think we know where we want to start. I think once we get the subcommittee lined up, we can start talking specifics on how and how to do things. Does anyone else want to throw anything out there on this project specifically before we move on to our next agenda item?
The goal was just this by the end of the year, right? This was a
Yep.
year-long goal, not in a specific quarter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got
Okay.
committee members that put them on the committee, buddy.
Exactly. Yep, yeah.
Tracy's chairing the subcommittee.
Appreciate it, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy, if you're watching.
Okay, well, in that case, move on to the next agenda topic. So the OSAC continuity document. This is something that Ryan put together for us. The idea behind it is we didn't really have anything that was capturing the history of why we were rating things the way we were, or what any notes specific to some of these trails, or really anything that would give a new member any background at all. And we're more or less finding that we were starting from scratch, and more or less verbally relating past decisions during meetings. And I mean, Ryan had a great idea that it'd be nice if we had something documented so we didn't have to rehash this every single year. So what we're looking at now is the draft of what's been put together. I have been going through and adding some notes I'm going to give back to Ryan that we can add to it, but I wanted to give the committee the opportunity to see it and see if there's anything else that we can add to it or change to it that would be more valuable to everybody. So here's just the listing. Allison, do you want to scroll down a little, or do you? Oh, I can scroll.
Do you want to scroll?
Be the scroller. Perfect. So, it more or less, so for instance, here's trail number 1. It's the Fire Station Park West along McCaslin. So, this guy all the way down here. The picture's there. A summary of what our 2016 ranking was, ours ProStax, and then that overall ranking is the combination of OSTAC and ProStack, which was sent to the board. And then what I'm doing right now is I'm going in and adding things to the notes that, again, we've been doing verbally. We can actually put it in here. And that's what all of this looks like throughout the entire document. So, from a high level, is there anything that anybody's seeing that we could add to make this more valuable? The only thing that I've noted so far that would probably be more useful, for instance, up here, is denoting exactly which trails we're talking about, which I think has actually been a problem for a little while, for a few years. But yeah, adding some type of marker, and we can work with town staff to make sure that we have a full understanding of putting the right markers in there, but make it more clear exactly what we're talking about. That's my only thought so far.
And I guess another question I had is, these numbers came from that ranking process we went through.
Mm-hmm.
Should we keep them numbered this way, or should we just do it by name? Or, like, for example, Tract H is now out there. That doesn't have a number, but it should be added to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so do we just make it the next number, or how do, is there
I
a
would
method we want to use for that?
I think the letters are better because then
Yeah.
it takes the.
We started to do that for the large poster board. We had lettered instead of numbered. That might make things a little bit easier.
I think, yeah, identification is the best. I just want to say, great job of even coming up with the concept, Ryan.
Oh,
and
thanks.
doing all
Appreciate it.
that, because it is true. Then we sit here and go, oh, why did we do that? Or back before you were on the committee, and then Sean's up taking the thing off the wall and like, explaining to everybody where something is. And
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is really helpful because, we look at this for a couple hours and then we go and have our lives for a month, and then we come back and we say, are we done 22 or 7 or things like that. So I think this is great. The only thing that I see as an immediate reaction is, as these start to progress, like 22, for instance, I drove by there the other day and it looks near completion. So
Well, but that's 2, actually, not 22.
Oh, is it 2? Okay.
But yes, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, well, and my
Yeah,
plan.
here's more
Okay,
clear.
yeah.
22 is the,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
It is complete.
Yep.
Is it now
It's
complete?
complete.
Awesome.
And
I
so
got a good picture
that's
of
my
it.
only immediate reaction is, do we have like a progress meter or a, expected, Q1, Q4 type of thing that we could add in here to kind of, as we look through here, or maybe it's even a spreadsheet attachment where we can sort by, when we expect completion or something like that, so we could kind of talk of in groups of, these 3 trails being Q2 or expected to be.
And
I
it was.
I did all this work out of a spreadsheet. I mean, I started in a spreadsheet to create this, so we could keep a spreadsheet linked to all of this if we want.
Yeah, and it is summarized up front what is under investigation, and those are the only ones, I guess the developer to build also, we might be able to have timetables on. But those are the only ones that would even have those dates. And what I was doing, just as I was going through, was just populating in the notes. Like, so for instance, Trail 2, like in the notes, I wrote something along the lines of under construction, or construction started late 2016, something like that. And then like scrolling down further, well, some of the other ones I said currently under has been issued for design or is out for design, something like that.
Can you go down to the one that was to the underpass on 36? Because we'd gotten some updated information, and just to see.
I think that was further down.
As communication was coming out, I was trying to keep this up to date. So I
Yeah.
do plan to try to.
Was that? No.
I will sign up to keep it up to date
Here we go.
from each meeting. Again, there was even another map from an email down below.
Yep. Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
And more or less documenting what had initially been discussed as an idea. And here's the email saying, no, this is no longer possible. So yeah, it's a live document that will continue to be updated like that.
Well,
Be sent out to, just to be able to get.
Well, that's a good question. I mean,
Yes.
should we, well, we can send it out initially, but longer term, is it best just once a month to email it out? I mean, is email the right method to deliver this to
So are you
everyone?
wondering, so you can look at it now to get a better idea for it, or?
I think it would.
To look through it and get a better understanding of everything that.
While why it has not yet been sent out is I wanted to try to get the notes in it first. That way it was more descriptive to everybody. I've got all those added. I was going to send them to Ryan after this meeting. That way we could gather any other just high-level changes we want. I think once we're good there, then yeah, we can send it out to the group and have everyone look at it and give any more detailed, specific comments, questions they have. But yeah, no, we'll give this out to the group.
And then I would agree with your thought that it ends up being like either something under the updates and look ahead if things change, or something like just either
Okay.
recurring monthly or, every other month kind of
Yeah.
Okay.
thing. I don't know how much it will get updated. Once you guys get the original done, how many updates it needs to get throughout
Yeah, I
the
think
year.
there's going to be 2 times where this document, I think, will be really significant to people. It's when they first join the committee so they can get an understanding of what we've done in the past, and then each year for the entire committee when we're doing the 5-year trails plan. So I don't know if we will need to do an update on it, or, well, I don't know if it will need to be presented as an update every month, just because I don't know if it will be applicable every month, but certainly 5-year trails plan time would bring it out, for sure.
I think it'll be an interesting historical piece as we see, when we put these out here, and then as we start knocking each one of these trails off, we kind of see how they go along and where we've come, where we've got left.
And certainly something to always read before we have our community engagements, so you can say, well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what would be nice after we finish a trail is to put the actual cost of construction and the length, and then we have a unit price for the next time. Maybe a description of, it was a significant amount of grading or something, just so when we come up with the budget later.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that surface, whatever, like, 'cause
Yeah,
some
yeah.
the boards requiring be concrete, some are, less formal or
Mhm.
less costly materials.
And for new members, just as a talking point to like some type of continuity document, we also have all of the agendas and notes on that same page that I referenced before with the open space acquisition plan. So you can kind of go back through for years and check things out.
Man, I think I forgot to write one of these down. So make the trails more clear on the map.
Talked about numbering versus
Yeah,
lettering,
that's what it was.
How to annotate the trail.
Adding letters versus numbers. Okay. Okay, got all those. Any other thoughts or ideas we want to throw out now? I mean, again, once I get stuff to Ryan, Ryan can update it. Then we'll shoot it out to everybody for full consumption. And we can get more comments then, or just say, hey, this looks great, and we'll go from there. Allison, can you send Ryan the map that has the letters instead of the numbers so we can update that?
I hope I can. If not, I can teach him a really handy dandy way to change everything in those bubbles in Adobe.
That too.
Yeah, I could do it that way.
I just wasn't sure if we already had the map that existed.
I'll
save the
I'll
time.
definitely look for it. But those were made in Adobe, and those bubbles, if you just go into that text tool, you can, that's how I've finagled it in the past. But I'll look for it to see if we can, because I don't remember if the lettered map was still relevant, or if we had another iteration or a few more iterations after that.
I want to say it was pretty close to the end. It's got to be. It'll be pretty close. Okay. Perfect. Moving on. Leadership election. First meeting of 2017. This is where anybody can throw their hat in the ring. Want to be president or vice president, or the chair or vice chair. We had at one point tried to do kind of co-vice chairs, and that got nixed by the I think it was the board. We have documents saying that no, it has to be a specific just chair and vice chair. So I guess just kind of open it up. If anybody's interested in it, I mean, I've kind of enjoyed being the chair and have no problem continuing, but anybody else?
I've been chair and vice chair, so if someone else wants to step in, you can have at it.
Tracy?
Tracy? We nominated and...
I'd like to nominate Ken if he's willing to be chair again. I think you've been doing an outstanding job. Unless you want to step up to be chair again.
I'm fine.
If nobody wants to be vice chair, Tricia, are you willing to be vice chair?
I can remain vice chair, but if, like I said, if someone else wants the opportunity, I'm fine with stepping back too. It's mostly looking at some notes, looking at some agendas,
Yeah.
showing up places occasionally.
Yeah. There's the leadership meeting with ProStack that we do first quarter of each year. I think that's the only other additional meeting that we have.
Yeah. Other than, like I said, the other big thing, which we're going to talk about too, looking for other people, is potentially showing up to board meetings to try to reiterate a point to the board. You know, they get our packets, but we like to occasionally show up and speak.
Yep.
Because then it just gets oof, but.
Okay, so we need a second Ken's nomination, or can
We just vote on it, so.
Yeah. So.
unless anybody else, I feel great with these two taking on their positions.
As long as they're okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, we can stay the same.
All right, so just voting on me as chair, Trish as vice chair. Everybody in favor? All right, unanimous. All right. Next topic, work distribution. So this is actually another kind of a holdover topic from last year. We had kicked around an idea of trying to expand OSAC's reach and have people kind of be the owners of certain tasks within OSAC. I mean, some of the ideas have been following what's going on with some of the other jurisdictions that neighbor us, and maybe giving updates on that, blanking on some of the other ideas we've had in the past. So,
I think it was like who was going to handle the Coal Creek
Coal Creek corridor.
You know, Shan.
Now we have the subcommittee for
Right.
this
The
document.
subcommittee.
Ryan's obviously already taken on the
Oh, sorry.
living document for now, not that we won't give you other tasks.
No, I understood.
But I think some of the things were, I think, Sean, you went out and got us all the addresses, and most of us signed up, and maybe new committee members need to. But like I get Jefferson's, I get Boulders, I get Broomfield. Broomfield, just as an FYI, last night postponed their vote on fracking.
I saw that.
I don't know how many people saw that, but just as something that might interest you, even just as a resident, not even just open space, but.
So I guess just throwing the ideas out there. Well, is there anything in particular that anybody is interested in? I mean, the best way to do it is if you're passionate about something. I mean, clearly it's much easier for you to follow it if you're interested. So is there anything that anybody's particularly interested in that they'd like to say, yeah, I'll be in charge of that and I'll give updates to the committee on monthly by monthly, whatever type basis?
I think a hole that we have with, we're very happy Mark's our new committee member, but Sandy was where we got a lot of our Rocky Mountain Greenway updates. So I think that's now a hole that we're going to have to connect with her or ask Mark to connect with her, one or the other. I mean, I don't want to volunteer you. I know you're doing this, but she was the one who kept us very informed because she's taken that on both as a trustee and as a resident of Superior, being very well informed. It would keep us well informed, but I think we need to possibly fill that hole. Like I said, we have the subcommittee for this document and then the living document, and beyond that, I don't know that we need, like I said, we've all signed up, or a number of us have signed up, so we've seen things, like I've seen, Sean, you've shot out things saying, hey, did everybody notice Boulder was talking about this? And I think those are kind of covered.
I'm interested in Shan and the development of that and keeping track of demolition and everything. And design.
Awesome.
I would say probably my peak interest would be around the Rocky Mountain Greenways. That's something I keep track of informally, as part of this committee, and just because I'm interested in how that works.
Yeah.
Well, the governor put the trails plan out there and how those progress. Ultimately from the wildlife refuge over near the airport all the way to Estes Park is this trail that ran through here. So that's a great interest to me.
And Sandy, I've had a few offline conversations with her, and she said that she is still going to let us know as much as she can about that. So I'll let her know that that's something that you're volunteer to kind of spearhead and take up, and to add you on any emails and anything.
I'll certainly look for ways to ascertain information through meetings and updates, and emails, things like that.
Yeah.
But I think Sandy's probably a great starting point.
And I want to say that our official town board representative on Rocky Flats is Chris. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I think so, but I think Sandy's going to everything as kind of like a co-participant. So I think Chris is officially the designee, but I think we have two. For all
Perfect.
intents and purposes.
Okay, so yeah, that sounds good.
So I can throw my hat in, hopefully with some other folks around this plan.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
Okay.
Also.
Brian, was that you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thanks. Sorry, I didn't.
No worries.
I think that's something I'd be interested in helping out with as well. I could certainly volunteer to dedicate the time for that.
I think it helps to have your history, because
Yeah.
there's probably some things that you know that have happened that maybe some of us have just joined recently or moved here recently may not.
It's probably true. So I don't think we need to absolutely have everybody sign anything tonight, but.
Yeah.
I have too many interests. I'm interested in all of them. I can't dedicate myself just to one.
All right, Sean's on the list for all of it.
Tracy and Sean.
Yeah.
I'm here.
So, Andy, if there's anything you can think of later that you're interested in, feel free to just throw it out there. I don't know. I'm sure you're still kind of absorbing everything and learning.
He's interested in reading and reading some more.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And I'll reach out to Tracy as well and let her know that this is kind of what we've put together, see if there's anything else that she's interested in, or see if she wants to jump in on any of these projects. And then, Sean, if there's...
So the only thing I think we didn't cover was the Coal Creek corridor. I mean, we got someone for the open space
true.
summer, we got someone for Rocky Mountain Greenway, we got someone for Shan Shan, the surrounding activity. I mean, I can resend out that information. I don't know if Andy's the only one. Brian, has everyone gotten those on the distribution list for the surrounding town open space committee information? Do you know?
Wait, have we signed up to actually get those?
Oh, well, I sent out information last year. I wasn't sure if you were on the committee.
I don't think I was.
Okay,
so-
so I can send
You don't necessarily have to
Perfect.
You don't
sign
have
up,
to.
but
Yeah.
just
No,
keep
but
giving
I'm
us
just saying
all
what's out
list.
there. Yeah, absolutely.
So I can
No,
send
that
you
would be
a-
good stuff.
Yeah.
And then as far as the Coal Creek corridor goes, I think it was the same night, I believe, that the FDP was approved to move forward with that. There was a request from the board to have just kind of a standing update to OSAC, and I don't remember if ProStack was on it also, but I know we were. So just something that we've kind of added going forward is Allison, if there is any movement, will provides us an update so that we do have that somewhat covered, but having somebody dedicated to it.
And
It's not
they
bad,
haven't
yeah.
moved forward yet. Part of the reason to separate it and put it out was that there was 18 months of permit things that's why they kind of separated out. And
Yeah,
there's
so
a lot
that-
of things around it before you could move forward, permitting from, I think, the Corps of Engineers and some other things.
And so basically, the application is still under review by Boulder County is one of the main ones that's happening.
Okay.
Anything on the Hodgson Harris Reservoir development, anything, do you want to do anything with that? I know that the Hardis is being developed and that is supposed to be accounted for, but at one point, we were discussing a boardwalk of some type or some kind of a pier or something out in the middle with stands or something.
So Ken, you went to the meeting. The
Mhm.
concept plan from an open space perspective was excellent. They put the boardwalk in, they had about 4 acres around the reservoir, kind of that thing. They had, up at the top, the wetlands.
The wetlands
because
area.
They couldn't do anything, but my understanding is from a density perspective for the other parts of that property was less appealing to the
Yeah.
board. But from an open space committee, they had taken in, I think, a lot of, either they researched or what we had said before.
Yeah, they listened to us at their first concept plan when we said, hey, we want to make sure that there's continuity to all the trails, that there's connection there, that this is something we really want to highlight the reservoir, and they did do a good job of getting that in the concept plan. It was asked by one of the residents at Monday night's board meeting, where Zaharias stands, and Manager Magley's response was that the town hasn't heard anything since the concept plan that was recently presented. So,
Yeah, and I just wanted to correct the record. So it's not being developed. There's just been a concept plan that's
Yeah.
been submitted. So there has not been an application to actually move forward with anything formal, which would be the next step that they would need to take to actually develop it. And right now, we've just had radio silence.
I think there was a lot of pushback from the community. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty dense. So, to answer your question, I'm not sure there's something to put on there right
Doesn't
now.
sound like it.
Yeah. So, I think we're probably just good right now then, and if you guys want to add your names to anything, just let us know. and-
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm interested in, I'll help out on whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm happy to help you guys.
Okay.
Whatever, it's all good.
Well, I have an item to add really quick to our agenda tonight, and that's just some ongoing communication I've had for some of our programming. For the year, Jeff and Paige has doubled their price this year. So they haven't gone up over the entire time we've had them for concerts, so they're now $1,000 for the 1 hour of concert. But keep in mind, they typically draw approximately 250 people, and people really like it, so.
Can we get just Jeff or Paige?
I can ask. I don't know how well that's going to go over. So I just wanted to come back with that information to the committee to see how everybody feels about that. But their dates book up really fast, so I kind of have to, get that information from you guys.
It's been a great event over the past few years, and even though it's.
Would this be the third, or this would be the third or fourth year that we
Well,
have
At
them?
least the third.
Yeah.
At least the third.
At least. I think it's been more though.
I think it would be the 4th year
Yeah.
because this will be my 3rd, I think, and it started the year before I came. So.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
So,
it gets the younger kids out. I mean, it's.
yeah, it's a well-attended event. I know we've talked about moving it up to the new park.
And they're really excited
Oh,
about having
yeah.
electricity at the new
Yeah.
park.
No, it's, when do we do it, in June, Alice? Is it a June
Might be
night?
early.
I think it's early.
Yeah, early May.
May, June, when do we normally do it?
I can look it up.
Yeah.
It wasn't scorching hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like per person still works out pretty favorably to some of the other things we've done.
Yeah. No,
I mean, $500 is not the end of the world as an increase. We got a budget increase in our OSAC
yeah, so I
budget
think it
this year.
covers it.
Yeah, I think it's something that we should continue to do for the town.
Pay the increase, but we need to fix our septic.
Well, I'm kind of like, I know we're giving them electricity. Are they still going to bring their bike for people to ride?
No, they're very excited because that bike cuts out at sometimes, and they're like telling the audience member, "Go faster," So it looks like. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
That's the night that we ended up fleshing out together.
Cool. So yeah, everyone's okay with
I think it's just.
increase. Cool. So Allison, is that good guidance for you? Are we?
That we're okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then the other item is, we discussed having a food truck at their event. And I did a little bit of research. Of course, I looked for the best food trucks in the area. And typically, what they do is they have an hour span that they say, okay, we need to be there 2 to 3 hours. We need to make X amount of money. If we don't, then whoever books us has to pay the difference. And so I don't know if someone in the group wants to take on looking at those to different types of food trucks. I mean, there's all kinds. You know, and what would be fast enough for that amount of people, like, you know, if, say, a pizza oven takes a long time for each pizza, I don't know how that would look. Ice cream?
And I was actually
Yeah.
thinking about,
Cow truck.
yeah, this might actually be a good opportunity to reach out to some of the vendor, or some of the restaurants, and see if they're interested in being a vendor for
Pizza
something like
place.
this. And I mean, that gives them a little bit more exposure, gives them another chance to get some revenue, keeps the money in Superior rather than going outside of Superior. I'm with you. I think Wayne's would be a hit.
And it's right around dinner time was the other thing. And when we used to have the pizza place by Founders Park, that's where everybody went, got their pizza, came out and had a big picnic, you know.
Well, Sean, do you want to run with this one? Reach out to Wayne's, see if this is a type of event that they'd be interested in doing.
Sure.
Again, Allison, it's okay for us. Do you need to see if it's okay if we can? Okay.
I would reiterate the fastness of the food. Just at Chili Fest, I stood in the line with my kids for that ice cream or whatever that one, it was like 45 minutes in the line to get, you know, something. So I think something that moves it, with the concert only being an hour.
Yeah, I think Wayne's fits that pretty well because they're gonna have all their stuff already pre-prepared.
That's fine,
I mean,
yeah, just, but whatever it is
Are
that.
they even open on the weekend? I don't think they
Not on
are.
Sunday.
This would
Well,
have to be a special. they'd
Yeah,
have to
this
cook
would be
special
a
for
special
this.
thing for sure.
They would have to
Because they
cook.
sell out by what, 12:30 or
Yeah.
1 every day, so.
If they were willing, do we have like a certain amount? I mean, they would probably want some, I don't know how it works. Do they usually require some kind of a down payment or something to show up, or is it just like, hey, yeah, we'll show up?
Well, for the food trucks, they definitely have an amount and a set time, and then you would make up the difference if they don't reach that goal.
Yeah,
As far as a restaurant, I'm not sure.
and I don't think they typically do this. I think I've seen them at Chili Fest and pretty much just Chili
I've
Fest.
seen them, I don't know if it's organized by the bank, but the bank down in Colton, they do.
They hire them out to,
You know, catering, like around Christmas and some events for them and stuff.
Yeah.
So they've done it.
So,
I think it'd be one of those, just say, hey, we've got this event, we were thinking about having some type of food there. Is this something you would be interested in being a vendor for? If we give you some space,
and how many vendors are we looking at, maybe getting just one, two, what?
I mean, I
I'd say
think
no more
one,
than two. I mean, if you got two different, if you went like an ice cream and.
Yeah.
And Wayne's, I would say when you talk to Wayne's that it's a kid, I mean, it's a family event, but it's kid oriented, so
Yeah.
they're looking at the chicken and mac and cheese probably as their thing. You know, not that you wouldn't have the brisket and other things, but like you need to have a kid-friendly food.
What was that date again?
The
16th.
17th,
Oh.
from when to when? Do we have a time? Not time yet, right?
I think it was 6 to 7.
6 to 7.
6 to 7, was it the 17th?
I thought it was the 16th.
It's the Friday night.
And just as a FYI, if it's a vendor at Chili Fest, they're donating their chili, so it's a little bit different scenario.
yeah, this would be an opportunity for them to actually make some revenue and.
16th is a Friday, yeah, 17th is Saturday.
Yeah, so it's the 16th.
Sorry, guys, it's quite a lot of clicking. I know where things are.
16th.
16th from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
So you'd start at 5-ish and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think more or less just framing it that, hey, we've got this community event, I'm trying to get a vendor in, keep the money in the community. We thought of you, is this something you're interested in?
Come play and picnic at the new park before the
Yeah.
concert.
Oh, I was gonna say, where is this gonna be? Is it gonna be still at the same location it's always been?
No,
actually gonna be
it's
the
a new park.
The park yet to be named.
Yeah.
Such a cool park.
For now.
And if, the other group that you might reach out to is the Chamber of Commerce, just to say, you know, do they, think someone in town would want to be part of it if it's not Wayne's, another
So,
restaurant.
if Wayne says no, maybe we can reach out to them.
Is there a pizza place that would be so easy, yeah, to have big stacks of boxes of pizza?
Oh, that's true.
I know Double D's does things like this. It goes with that, do you want it an in-town business or an out-of-town business? Versus a resident in town who owns the business, because some of them live in town, but their business is
Okay.
out of town.
Well, we can revisit this next month, see what
Yep.
Wayne says, and go from there.
Yeah.
Cool. That brings us to the updates and look-aheads. Coal Creek improvements, that was,
Application still under review with Boulder County is the latest information I was able to get today.
perfect. The only other things I could think of that didn't make the list was Jeff and Page, which we talked about, and we talked about earlier, Trail F is now complete. So, exciting stuff.
Snow plowed for the snow, so it was done so quickly.
Trail F was which one again?
The little.
It was number two, that little one.
Yeah, the elbow.
The low-hanging fruit.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Nicely. I saw someone
Yeah.
running, like, all he could see was this blinking
Pass the
red light.
picture down if
Yeah.
you want.
Up the trail.
Yeah. Audio visual. So that was all we had. Anyone have anything for the good of the order before we sign off?
You should put these in your document.
Yeah, well, now that
We
it's
could,
finished,
yeah.
I will, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, in that case, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. Good job, Ken.
We're going to be here longer.
Well, we got behind, but we made up.
We did, we were very behind. Yeah, I think the first thing that
are new, like the one.
my first agenda item on this is I was thinking that I was gonna reach out to Allison and someone else on town and just go down and say, okay, what has been renamed
or what's bought up.
Yeah. Well, some of them, like, so like Smith is.
I was thinking about it, but I came from work, so.
Town Nine is Founders, so some of them I know right off.
I guess. Maybe it's something. We just crossed that. I'm at Ireland State, it's a business law firm.
Right, it's contract statement for me.
Mark Webster has $18 billion friendly exchange plan. Probably more, a lot of negative with the city rate consolidation.
A lot of bankruptcy filings, and people buying things out of bankruptcy or.
So whatever, the prices start running, and everybody says, oh,
Exactly.
Dinner to bring up again, change
This is amazing. I'm not a technical guy. The engineers are pretty.
Well, I think it's,
I know, I had friends on
Let's go through like the same stuff.
Yeah, it's just impressive stuff. I mean, the way it's laid out right now, it's here, and so there's little guys that
Yeah.
It's always interesting.
It's really nice to meet you, because I was like.
Now I've been specializing in
Ultimately, it always still comes down to.
How you doing?
There was that talk about the roundabout going over to Shan Shan. And it was brought up, but I think it got dropped for other things. Who's the right person to talk to about whether that has traction or not?
It would just be the board. Just the notes go to the board, and if they're interested, they would, I assume they would run with it. And I feel like if there was traction, maybe we would have about a one.
Okay. Have a good night.
Every now and then you'll see them going through
Well, I know that we usually have some documentation.
Welcome, nice talking to you. I don't think we've ever had. Yeah, good to meet you too. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, first time I this is not worth aggravating.
It's in the consent agenda.
We've got the Disney World sort of plans. Oh, great. Now like a year before. That's around the short show off. Thanks for having me. Hopefully it's like just interesting. Yeah, no, definitely.
We always have lots to talk about.
Yeah, and you know, I want to watch you guys do your thing. Sorry.
Good.
Like pro, I do just go halfway into that.
How do they make those talks?
Way in more or not?
A fair amount, you know, Sandy was really good at how much.
Yeah, I think that.
We've seen both sides. We've had people come in that kind of take over. And then,
So,
you know, Sandy's had a real good sense of the boundaries of your So.
I certainly don't want to take over.
No, and we appreciate that. And it's
she
really
say,
did.
like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, pay attention to this guy.
Yeah, so if there's obviously.
You know, I will say, like the whole, like dog waste thing, the board's got that's a huge issue right now. It's off these dogs, but to the extent we're talking about things like the dinner, that would be surprising for us. So it's like that.
Get it done.
Yeah,
the
but
best
I
way
think
to
that
get it
we
done.
find that, like, when you have no GIS after that, like, this is why it's
I
bad,
think,
that people like to see that.
I think Ken's idea, the whole like, the cut the crap, do good event, and just like any, you know, a one-time deal, like, come on, guys, like, pick up extras. So, and you know, it's, I don't know if anybody, I'm sure there's other ways, the tipping point, like Mountain Gladwell, we talked about drawing how, like, there was like urban light areas, the way that we secure that was broken. Anytime there was one broken window, there's all that like a downward spiral. And if you clean it up once, and use that one, pile of dog poop to stand out that much more, but if you have just lots of it all over around, it's gonna be something that snowballs.
Oh, absolutely, people think it's all right. No, it's really a bunch of crap there.
There's no, my neighborhood was ballistic, people are, they're more kind of like bag things, and they get mowed, and
So,
it's
yeah,
spread,
don't worry
and then they got
about it.
nice
Find it,
food,
yeah.
got plastic that's getting.
Makes it even worse.
Makes it worse.
Because I want to be responsible.
But it's like, that's not
In
Yeah,
town,
it's-
well, we're hearing a lot about it, it's like finally down the road.
Oh, okay. Space they have to do all billboards rather than just on the street. So that version.
Not just with dog poop.
well, that's the
I remember
one they
that
want.
erupted, yeah.
That's the one that we, Listen to Ashley, she was very clear during our walk how quickly, like a coyote gets reincorporated into the environment
We didn't
comparatively.
talk about the coyote thing. When is that? Is that this coming 2 weeks?
The 21st. It's on the CAC every week.
I don't get it.
I can forward you to CAC email, I think at the bottom it
Can you
says.
subscribe?
Yeah.
Sign up for
I get all this.
it. I blast it every week. Sometimes I get.
You get included in the feedback.
I
Why
saw,
we hear about
the only
coyotes,
reason I
but
even knew
not
about it was the
vaping.
next door.
And I'm like,
It's good.
I get it. It's what you tune into to read.
Between the town and the next doors.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Need any help?
I am great. I just need to set the alarms, turn off some lights.
You're all good?